You're listening to Radio Kidnappers, the voice of Hawke's Bay. It's our pleasure, as always, to have in this studio the wonderful Lou from Wardini Books in Havelock North with a program called
The Wonderful World of Wardini Books.
What
I
a
like that that's
coincidence.
my job now.
It is your job now. You're good too. What about that good interview that you did the other day with your husband?
Oh, that bloke Gareth Ward?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
He's a clever bloke, isn't he?
He's pretty clever.
If you want to hear that interview, by the way, it's about his new book, which is called
Brasswitch and Bot.
Visit our website, www.radiokidnappers.org.nz. Click on the Made in New Zealand icon, and you can listen to Lou talking to Gareth. It doesn't get any better either, by the way.
Thanks for that, mate.
Now, we've got 3 great new books to talk about today, and the first one is called Betty.
So normally I start with the kids' books, eh?
Yes, you do.
But I have to get Betty out of the way. Betty is by Tiffany McDaniel, and it is probably one of the most traumatic books I've ever read.
Oh, no.
I'm not someone that's easily rattled by what I read, but this really rattled me, and I had a nightmare.
Really?
Yeah.
Must be scary.
So it's not so much scary as just the trauma. So that's Tiffany McDaniel, that's the lady, very beautiful young woman. And Betty, so this is a novel, but it's based on the life of her mother, who is that unhappy looking child there.
Yes, he does look unhappy.
So we'll go back to the novel now, but remember that it's based on a real person, which is probably what really upset me. So Betty was born to a Cherokee Indian father, Cherokee Native American father, and a white American mother. And they got together in the most unusual of circumstances in the first place. So Betty's father, Landon Carpenter, was a gravedigger at the time, 29 years old, saw this very pretty 19-year-old, I think 17, 18, 19-year-old girl in the graveyard, just sitting on a blanket eating an apple. She seduces him. Later, she goes back and says, I'm pregnant, and on the way to the registry office, they introduce one another.
Oh, really? As you do?
Yeah. And she's been beaten by her father because she's pregnant. So Landon goes and beats the father because that's the honourable thing to do.
Yes.
They go on to have many more children. Betty is, I can't remember, she's like the 3rd or the 4th kid, and they lose a couple along the way. But there is so much cyclical abuse in this novel.
No.
So the mother, Alka, is completely screwed up by things that have happened to her during her childhood from the age of 9. Her mother colluded in this abuse. I'm not going to go too much into it. You probably can guess.
We can work it out, yeah.
And so she's already very, very broken when she meets Landon Carpenter, who is the most delightful character in a book I've ever met. His head is in the stars. His children he adores. He tells them stories of how his heart is a glass heart with a little bird in it. And when you listen to his heart, it's the hummingbird's wings flapping, and that's the beat of the heart. And he tells them all these stories, and Betty comes a cropper because he's told her that you can use spider webs to bind wounds. And when something god awful happens to the mother, she's up in the corner of the room, and he's going, "What are you doing? Call the ambulance! The ambulance." She says, "I'm getting the spider webs, Dad." And he's like, "Just call the doctor." But so he is this shining, bright, beautiful light, but he's quite naive in many ways. And so he's teaching his children these most beautiful things about how to work the land and how women are the sacred ones in Cherokee law. But the world is not showing Betty that. No. She goes to school and the teacher just rubs her finger against her skin as if it's dirty. And, she's called all sorts of terrible names because she's out of all the children, she's the one that looks Native American, and her dad calls her Little Indian, and they just have the most beautiful, and he's so proud of her. But then there's abuse within the family that the father, in his naivety and his childlike ways, doesn't see. Right. So he's missed this thing that breaks one of his children as well. No. And it really is this. Betty is figuring out the world, and there's a lot of feminism in there. It's quite obviously written, so you don't learn anything, but the author does point out how women were just treated as
chattels,
absolutely, and abused, and nothing was theirs. And Betty does break out of that. So I think that is I had to read it to the end to find some light, but there's something that made me read it to the end. So if you can do this, do it.
I would say it sounds so depressing, I wouldn't want to even open it, but I guess there's a message in there, and so we should. So out of 10, what did you give it?
Well, I don't really know, 'cause it's so traumatising. I'm going to write a review for the shop, how we're doing that. We have the little yellow tags on the shop, but I'm going to have to put a warning on it because, there's plenty of trigger warnings in there.
It almost needs a warning on it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Imagine what sort of movie it might make, crikey.
Yeah.
Anyway, good read. You had to read it till the end, and
I had
you
to
didn't
read
put
it
it
till the
down. So
end.
we'd have to say it was a good read. And if you want to, how would you sell that book? If you wanted to recommend that book to someone, how would you recommend it?
I think there are some people with the psychology that they need a challenge, and if I say to them, this made me cry and it gave me a nightmare and I felt traumatised by it, they'd go, yeah, give it to me.
Yeah.
People like a challenge with their reading, I think, and it is a challenge.
It almost sounds like the sort of book that's going to stick with you for a while as well.
Yeah, I won't forget this book.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Daddy Monster ABC. That's my sort of book.
Let's go on to the rather delightful children's
Yes.
books I have to show you. So this is written by Diana Neild and illustrated by Emily Walker. And it's got a bit of a darkness to the
Yes,
cover, hasn't it?
Oh my God, let's get on to the next one.
Oh, no, but don't worry, it's okay. It's all right, Ken. So it's a really lovely alphabet book,
Yes.
in one sense. So it's A, B, and there's Daddy, and he's picking up things to dress up Teddy Bear, because clearly he's going to turn him into a monster. A, B, A, B, C, scary monster chasing me. But it's all right, because the little boy it might be a little girl, don't they? Looks quite happy about it.
Yes, got a smile.
So it is just the evening routine, isn't it? Toddlers had bath and now they're doing chases around the house.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, scary monster chasing me. D-E, he can't see. I'm safe down here by Mummy's knee. And so there's all the reassuring things of Mum's there and it's only a game. And Daddy keeps putting little bits onto the teddy bear to make it more monster-like. Yeah. But the child, you can see here, there's a little superhero mask. So he/she/they are getting ready to be the superhero that they need to be to combat the monster. And so Mum's not there, she's tripping over all the blocks scattered around on the floor, and on they go. Time to make my getaway. And it just amps up. So it's the alphabet all the way through. Monster's catching up again. O-P, O-P-Q, monster's close, what shall I do? And he's got his gloves on as part of his superhero costume, and he's in his bedroom and he's found his cape. And then the monster comes in. I'm not scared of monsters. Boo! And he gets the last laugh on Dad because he's out there. And then, way up high, me and Monster in the sky, zooming down with letter Z, me and Monster safe in bed.
Look at that happy ending. I love it.
And so you have to pronounce it as a Z.
Z. Good drawings too.
Lovely, aren't they? So I thought that was great fun, and it'd be a really nice bedtime story as long as you don't get the kid all ramped up.
Special voices.
yeah, absolutely.
And our last book we're going to look at today is called Marshmallow Pie, the Cat Superstar.
Yeah, it's by Clara Vulliamy, and it's for children, I would say, to read by themselves. If you've got a 6-year-old who's just decided they're flying away with their reading, then otherwise about 7 and up.
Must say a mean-looking cat on the front.
He is a bit of a grumpy cat, but he's actually quite a sweetheart at heart. It's got a really lovely map of the flat at the beginning, where you can see where I'm not really allowed in the bedrooms, but I sometimes sneak in. So there's Marshmallow Pie and things like it's behind the sofa. My secret stash behind the sofa. So all the things that he steals, like some cats, Slinky Malinky used to steal things, didn't he? So that's where Marshmallow Pie puts all the things. So Marshmallow Pie is a fancy cat. I prefer to be addressed by my full name, which is Marshmallow Marmaduke Vanilla Bean Sugar Pie Fluffington Fitznoodle. Everybody should have a name like that.
Yes, they should have.
And that's his human, Amelia Lime. Now, it used to belong to Amelia's auntie, who's very rich, but she's now flying around the world and can't take Marshmallow Pie so he lives in this tiny flat with Amelia and her dad.
So slumming it
a bit, yes, and he just spends most of his time teasing Buster, who's the dog on the balcony below, but Buster gets a bit of payback at some point as well. And what happens in this is that the funniest bits are that he just narrates it all and kind of ignores what Amelia's trying to do. She seems to be quite a lonely child, and she's not got many friends and things like that, and she's very shy. And she sees this advertisement for pet superstars. You know, you can get your pet to be in commercials and
Yes.
things like that. And she's like, well, that would be something I can do, and I don't have to be in the limelight because Marshmallow Pie would be in the limelight. And he's like, yes, I can do that, you know. So off they go to the auditions, and they have quite the adventures, and they both learn something about themselves, and it's really funny. Because, I mean, I could just probably flick through and find something. Oh, he has these kitten moments when everybody's out and nobody's looking. While Emilia is at school in the daytime and no one is looking, I take advantage of being home alone to express my inner kitten. I chase my tail, a classic. I pretend a speck of dust is a juicy mouse to hunt, stare at it intently, crouch down low with my bottom in the air, and pounce! Yeah, and then he adds things to his stash behind the sofa.
That's just what they do too.
It was so much fun to read that after I finished Betty.
Yeah, I bet you couldn't wait for something
I was
uplifting.
like, oh, just a kitten playing with things, great.
So if you want any of these great reads, where do we get them?
Wardini books, please. So we're online at wardini.co.nz, and we are 16 Tomato Road, Havelock North, and 44 Hastings Street, Napier.
Lou, as always, my pleasure. You look after yourself. We'll talk to you same time, same place next time.
Cool, thanks, Ken.